New developments in the immigration crackdown planned for Chicago. The Department of Homeland Security is now launching Operation Midway Blitz.
Chicago is no stranger to tough times, but something about what's happening right now feels different. The city is buzzing with tension, and the words National Guard are back in the headlines. If you think this is just politics as usual, think again. Welcome back to Chicago Loop News, your go-to channel for everything happening in the Windy City. For years, Chicago has been in the national spotlight when it comes to crime. Every summer we see headlines about weekend shootings. Every holiday the numbers seem to climb. Just this past Labor Day, dozens of people were shot, and multiple families were left grieving. The violence has reached a point where national media, and even the White House, can't ignore it anymore. But here's where things get serious. Leaked memos, insider reports, and whistleblower tips suggest that federal authorities are preparing something we haven't seen in Chicago for decades: a massive National Guard deployment that could turn some neighborhoods into heavily monitored zones. Let's rewind for a second. This isn't the first time the idea of sending in the National Guard has been floated. In 2020, during the George Floyd protests, there were guard units stationed near downtown to prevent looting. Back then, it was temporary, a short-term response to civil unrest. But what we're hearing now sounds like something much bigger, much longer, and far more controversial. Insiders say the plan is being called Operation Midway Shield, a name that immediately sparks images of a city under military protection. Maps have reportedly been drawn up showing which parts of Chicago would see guard patrols. First, Englewood, Austin, South Shore, Roseland. These are neighborhoods that city officials say account for a disproportionate share of violent crime. But those same neighborhoods are also full of hard-working families, kids walking to school, and small businesses just trying to survive. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find armored vehicles parked outside your apartment. Imagine going to the grocery store and passing a military checkpoint. For some, that might feel reassuring. For others, it would be terrifying. And that's exactly the debate raging right now. Safety versus freedom. Civil rights groups are sounding the alarm. They warn that when soldiers are sent into civilian neighborhoods, mistakes happen. Innocent people get stopped. Communities lose trust. Some leaders have even compared this to martial law, the most extreme form of government control, where military forces take over local policing. But not everyone is against the idea. In fact, many residents are calling for it. Parents who have lost children to gun violence are demanding action. Business owners who have been robbed multiple times are begging for help. And when President Trump called Chicago a war zone just last week, his words struck a chord with people who feel like their neighborhoods have been abandoned for too long. So, what exactly would Operation Midway Shield look like? According to those leaked documents, the first step would be increasing surveillance in high-crime areas. Drones, cameras, and federal task forces gathering intelligence. Then, guard units would be deployed to key intersections and business districts. Their mission wouldn't just be about stopping shootings. It would target everything from gang activity to large-scale retail theft, carjackings, and illegal street takeovers that have become a dangerous trend in Chicago. This is where things get even more intense. Some reports claim that the operation would include temporary detainment centers, where suspects could be held for questioning. That idea alone has sparked outrage from community activists, who say this is a step toward a police state. The mayor is in a political firestorm. On one side are protesters planning marches and lawsuits to stop this plan before it starts. On the other side are residents who say, enough is enough. If this is what it takes to stop the bloodshed, then do it. And then there's the big question: funding. Who pays for a massive deployment like this? City budgets are already stretched thin. If the federal government steps in, will it come with strings attached? More oversight, more control from Washington, and less local say over how policing is done? This isn't just a Chicago story anymore. It's a national debate about crime, justice, and the balance between security and civil liberties. Cities across America are watching closely, because if this works, if it actually reduces violence, we could see similar crackdowns in other major cities. But if it goes wrong, if there's even one major incident involving the Guard, It could spark nationwide protests that make 2020 look small. Chicago Loop News will keep digging. Keep asking questions and keep bringing you the truth as this story develops. But we want to hear from you. Would you support soldiers patrolling Chicago's streets if it meant safer neighborhoods? Or is this going too far? Drop a comment below, because your voice matters in this conversation. And don't forget to subscribe to Chicago Loop News, so you don't miss the updates that the mainstream media won't show you.